For moms raising children with disabilities, the journey can sometimes feel lonely, and that's where Labeled and Loved comes into play. They offer connection and community through meetups and retreats designed just for them. And Labeled and Loved co-founders Julie Hornack and Dr. Regina Crone join me with more on an upcoming retreat that's coming this fall in Frisco. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So glad to have you here. Julie, I want to start with you. Can you share some of your experience that actually led to you guys starting Labeled and Loved?
Absolutely. So whenever my daughter Lizzie was 2 years old, she received a lifelong diagnosis, and it came as a shock and a surprise for our whole family. We had seen her lining things up, walking on her tippy toes, spinning in circles, and when she received that diagnosis at 2 years old, everything changed for our family. We went from play dates at the park to then having 30 to 40 hours a week of therapy.
Wow.
And it changed everything, where I didn't realize I was actually joining 20+ million families across the United States that are dealing with disability. And for me, I was just trying so hard to help her that I quickly became burnt out. Emotionally, physically, even financially for our family. It was really, really hard. And we wanted to start Labeled and Loved. I wanted to start it because I wanted to bring purpose to my pain. I didn't want another mom to have to feel like I felt.
Yes, yes. I'm glad that you mentioned that there was 20 million plus other moms going through the same thing as you, right? Because when you get that diagnosis, or like you said, when you feel that burnout, it starts to feel like you're the only person in the room and that's going through this situation. And so being able to connect with others is so incredibly important. Tell me how you ended up getting involved.
Yeah, so I have a different story, and that's being a sibling and the oldest of 5 kids. So I really got a front row seat to seeing how the diagnosis can change your family, and really seeing my mom having to navigate my brother's needs. And so behaviors like headbanging and learning from being nonverbal to sign language to speaking, just my mom having to navigate that really in a community that was all alone. She didn't have community at that time. And I think it's interesting that as a child, I had never met another family like ours. And so knowing how much this is important, I have been really passionate about Labeled and Loved and starting it to provide a community that my mom never had but desperately needed.
I'm so glad that the group is also open to not just moms, right? Because you coming in as a sibling, like you said, you can be affected in different ways. And sometimes, half the time, a sibling maybe even becomes the caretaker later on in life, right? And so having that support, maybe even before you come into that role, is so incredibly important. Talk about that emotional change or that emotional shift that you went through once you found out, because like you said, you found out when your daughter was 2 years old, and so she was already well into her way, into toddlerism at least, and so you didn't know before you gave birth.
Yeah, I mean, we go into parenthood, motherhood for me with expectations, and we have dreams. We have dreams for our children, we have dreams for what our family's gonna look like. And when that diagnosis comes, it just might not be possible. And for me, there was a lot of things that weren't possible. So we think, oh, we're gonna be parenting for 18 years, but most of us in this world are gonna be parenting for a lifetime, and maybe even caretaking or caregiving for a lifetime. And so we really have to look at our expectations and then choose to grieve them, and not grieve our children, because our children are amazing, and we celebrate our children, but grieve just what we thought our life was gonna look like, and then begin to look forward and to find the joy in this very different version of motherhood.
I'm so glad that you said to grieve what you thought was going to happen and not necessarily grieve your children or what they could have been, because of the simple fact that this is who they were meant to be, right? And so standing in that grace and spreading that to other people, like I said, is again so incredible. So tell me all about the Weekend of Hope, what people will experience and who can attend.
Okay, so this is the most exciting week of the whole year for us, because we are from the DFW area and we are coming home with the retreat. Normally it's all different places across the United States, but we have about 250 women coming from 38 states this year. And it's like walking into a room for the first time in a long time where you don't feel misunderstood. We often feel, like you said, isolated. We often feel alone. And all of a sudden, we walk into a room, we don't have to explain anything, and everything is set up for the mother. The one who's normally caring, we're caring for her all weekend long. And this year, we have something really exciting. We have Miguel and Kelly Cervantes coming to speak and do a show for us. And he is Hamilton on Broadway for like 20, I think it was like 2,000 different shows. So we have that, we have a masquerade ball, and then we have the ability for them to just relax and enjoy and build a community so they can become each other's lifelines.
So good. I think most people just want to be seen and heard, right? So you guys are really doing that. Appreciate you guys so much for being here this morning, for sharing some of the struggles that you've went through, and giving also everybody at home a little bit of hope as well. We appreciate you. All right, you guys, so if you want to be a part of this event, there is so many things happening. 3-day weekend of Hope Retreat will be held October 10th through the 12th at the Star in Frisco. And to learn so much more, all you have to do is go online to labeledandloved.org.